Hello everyone, welcome back to Reversing Hashimoto's. I am Dr. Anshul Gupta, world's Hashimoto's expert. And today I'm really excited for a discussion because I have a dear Maria with me, and she is sharing her story of hope and how she was able to conquer Hashimoto's disease. The interesting piece is that Maria herself is a health coach, and she has been healthy for a long time, but unfortunately she did get diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease. And finally, after making certain changes, doing certain things, she was able to conquer this disease and saw a significant improvement. So I wanted to kind of share her story with you. So I have Maria with me, but Maria, why don't you introduce yourself first to our listeners?
Hi, thank you, Dr. Gupta. My name is Maria. I am originally from Ecuador, but live in Singapore. And as you mentioned, I'm a health coach, and I try to live what I help my clients through. So, um, yeah, I'm very excited to be here.
Absolutely. So thank you so much. So why don't we delve into first your story of Hashimoto's disease, because that was very interesting. Like a lot of people who come to see me are already healthy, and unfortunately they get this disease, and they ask me this question, well, why did I get it? So if you don't mind sharing your story or journey of Hashimoto's disease, of diagnosis, and what things got worse for it for you, that will be really helpful for people to know.
Yeah, sure. So, I do long distance training, long distance running, and I was training a lot. But my hair was falling. I was shedding a lot of hair, and I went to see my GP here in Singapore, and then she made some tests. She did the blood work, and she found out that my iron was low, my T3 was low, and my vitamin D was also low. But then she said, okay, let's just wait 2 weeks, just rest. And then let's see if the T3 gets better. And then she did a panel for my thyroid, and we found out that my antibodies, especially the antiglobulin antibody, was high, was in the 300s. So she only told me that I will get a full-blown thyroid disease in the future. That's all she said. So I panicked because I didn't know what that means. Should I see an endocrinologist? Should I start taking medicine? What was the intervention? And then she said, well, if you feel tired, I can give you thyroxine, or you can just wait and see how it develops. So I just had two options: or take the medicine right away, just so if I felt tired, or wait until things got out of control. So I didn't want to have choose any of those options. I knew there was something out there. So I started doing my research, and that's where I thought, okay, I can do it on my own, and I will prove the doctor that I can lower my antibodies. And then if it's okay, a 300, then I can do something about it. So I started doing some research. I started eating more foods that support the thyroid. I was eating healthy. I also thought, okay, maybe I can take gluten off. But then it was only like to try. So it wasn't really knowing what I was doing. I was just experimenting. So at the end, okay, I didn't eat for gluten for a few months, but then I was like, okay, I'll have gluten here and then, because I didn't have like I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like hoping that things would change, right? And so then somebody told me about the iodine protocol, and then I started reading about it, and it sounded so wonderful just to take high doses of iodine, and then in 3 months, the problem was going to be solved. So the thing was that I always had this doubt in my mind that I wasn't sure if it was going to work because there's no way of testing this, right? So the before and after. And too much iodine it also can be harmful. So it was like playing with this double-edged sword of like, how much am I taking? Do I really need it? And this is going to solve the problem. So I did some experimenting. I increased my iodine. I was taking like Lugo drops of
Mhm.
iodine. And I didn't feel any difference because then they also say like you get more energy, but I wasn't really feeling any different. I actually just was tired and I thought it was because of the training. So I cut down the training. I that was about it, and my hair was still falling. So after addressing the iron and the vitamin D as well. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, I wasn't never gonna know if this was working or not. So I was always looking for information, right? So in the end, I got my test done again, and my antibodies went up so much. So from 300 in 3 months, it went to 500, and 1 year they went to 1600.
Wow, that's a big jump of antibodies.
Yes,
And
yes.
even though you're trying to do things on your own, by kind of following a very great diet, you are doing training as well as obviously you're taking certain supplements and doing this high dose iodine, which even made things worse.
Yeah. And apparently, yeah, it did make worse. And so, and then when I first talked to you, I remember that you said, okay, just eating healthy and taking supplements is just going to keep me healthy, but we don't know the real root cause. And that's what we have to address. And then I thought, yeah, it's right. I was just guessing over the surface and hoping that things will change, but I don't really know what I was doing because I'm not an expert. I just help people change their behavioral patterns, to become healthier or like make these dietary changes, but I'm not the Hashimoto expert. So yeah.
I think that's a very big thing that a lot of people think, even in functional medicine realm, that Hashimoto's disease is a very easy disease to work on. Just make a few changes to your diet, take these supplements, and everything will be fine. And I wish that it is true, and I wish that it works for each and every person. But again, that's what my research says, that it's a pretty complicated disease. And a lot of functional medicine MDs or doctors also do not understand the complexity of this disease, that it requires a work at multiple levels. And you have to address all of these root causes. You have to heal the thyroid, you have to work on inflammation and a whole bunch of other things. Then only things get better. Yes, like very big proponent of lifestyle choices. So until you improve your diet, until you improve how you process stress and other things, supplements don't work. So absolutely, that is a foundation. But you are absolutely correct that just making changes to the diet or taking a few supplements doesn't work for majority of the people. It will help, but it doesn't get them all the way to improving their antibodies and also improving their symptoms. So that's absolutely correct, because a lot of people come to see me and they want to say, well, Dr. Gupta, I'm already eating healthy, I'm already taking supplements. What difference is it going to be, while working with you or even with functional medicine model of care? What different are you going to do? And I think that's the big question, and it's always difficult for me to answer this question, because if I'll say that I have this magic supplement with me, or this
Mhm.
magic which is hiding in my sleeve, that I'm going to use in you, that doesn't feel right. And I think you are a perfect candidate, because you were doing a lot of things right. But then what was that that you felt was different when you started working with me, in terms of that felt that, okay, that makes sense and that would help you to get better?
Yeah, I think there were a couple of things. First is that you are the expert, right, about on this. So you know this, and you were able to say, okay, you told me, okay, let's stop experimenting, and then because my antibodies were already in the 1600s, you need an intervention. And then that's what I said, yes, I need to stop trying things and really go with you because you know exactly what needs to be done. And that for me was key because I don't need it took the guesswork out of like what I was doing. And I was really focused. Okay, then with your guidance, you took me like step by step what to do, which was very important because then I could just, work on implementing those changes in my daily life. And at the end, there are slightly things like, for instance, the gluten that I mentioned earlier. Just like working with you, kind of like committing to this protocol that you have was for me is like, okay, I cannot afford to cheat, because this will have a result, a positive result. So I think it's not necessarily about eating healthy, it's about knowing what things you need to eat and what changes need to happen, because healthy can mean many things to many people. So it's about eating the right things or taking the right supplements in each step that will take you to that result, which is, getting healthier. I think it's more than it for me. It became more than lowering the antibodies. It was more of like, it became that why. Why am I doing this? Because I want to be healthy. I want to still have like a well-functioning thyroid for many, many years.
Absolutely. And, I'm so thankful that there are very few people who can commit to working on their health. It is not easy, like it requires a lot of work because, all these steps we have to follow, whether it is working on the gut, whether it is working on detoxification, working on immune regulation, working on kind of, replenishing all the vitamins and minerals, all these steps, it's not easy. That's what I call people. So you were really good in implementing those things, and I think that's the reason you got results. So tell people a little bit more about, what was happening with you before in terms of maybe symptoms. You already shared about the antibodies, and after working, on your body for 4 to 6 months, what difference, did you see and where you were?
So I didn't have many symptoms, or I guess I didn't because of everything that I was trying to. So I guess I was tired. I will have like the energy slump in the middle of the day. But I thought that was normal because I was training. But then some days I was having, it was hard for me to process things, to go very quick, like with work, for instance. So uh, I had never thought that I had brain fog, but looking back, I think I was like that level of brain fog, right? It was not too much not to operate, but it was there. And so I think the most immediate changes that I saw was that it was like thinking sharp. I was so sharp, and my thoughts were going like 100 miles per hour. It was crazy. It was like, wow, I didn't know that I was having brain fog before. And I also didn't know that I was bloated until I wasn't. So that was also a good surprise. And I was before working with you, I was having coffee. So I would have coffee before going to train in the morning. And then, yeah, then I did really well in the training, right? But then after, when we started working together, I didn't like I left. I was taking any caffeine, and I felt with a lot of energy. It was like I woke up energized. I had energy throughout the day, and I was like, I didn't have any coffee or anything that like very close to caffeine, and I was feeling so well. So yeah, I think those were the symptoms, or like the difference in how I felt.
And tell more about the antibodies and your thyroid numbers. Did they finally improve and how much they improved?
Yeah, so after I think it was 4 months that I took the test again, and this was very funny because when I went back to my GP here to ask for the test, she told me like she didn't do the full thyroid panel. She omitted the antibodies because she said like they're not gonna go down in 4 months. So there's no need to do it. You can wait another 6 months, right? But then I had that conviction, and I was like so sure that the antibodies will come down. So I fought for it. And I end up going to another lab to get my test, and at the end, they came down 50%. So they were almost 800, the antibodies now. And it was it was surprising for me because I wasn't expecting it to come down that much. But at the end, it was amazing. It was amazing that my body responded in that way as well. And for me, that was like an indication that, okay, this is working, and to keep going so that the antibodies can keep going down.
Absolutely. And this is the story that I keep hearing each and every day. Like even when I was working in the Cleveland Clinic, as a functional medicine physician, I would often get calls from the endocrine department, we saw this patient of yours, or our patient is following with you, and then I think there is a lab error. And they will not tell me anything. They will just say there is a lab error. I was like, it's my patient. Now he or she is following with me. Why are you concerned about the lab error? They'll say, no, we are also following this patient, and we are doing this kind of, kind of a registry of our clients, and then following their labs along. And we saw an error. I said, what is error? They said, this patient just saw us, like, again, 4 or 6 months ago, and her antibodies were this high, and now they are come back to, like, either this level or they're back to normal. I was like, why are you surprised? And they said, because this doesn't happen. It cannot happen. These antibodies cannot come down in so this amount of time. So I said, that's a good thing, right? They said, yeah, it is a good thing, but it cannot happen. So we want to repeat the test. I said, so why would you like to poke a patient? Because just because you think it is a lab error. And I told them that it happens in each and every patient of mine that the antibodies comes down. And they will say, no, 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 doesn't happen, and we want to repeat it. I said, it's up to you and it's up to the patient. I believe what I'm doing is working. So they will call the patient, and the patient will say the same thing, that why would I pay for another test? But somehow they will convince it, and then they will repeat the test, and still it will be showing that the antibodies are down. And I will call the endocrine department and tell them, see, the antibodies are down. Do you want to learn that what we are doing to lower these antibodies? And they will say, no, we don't want to learn. I was like, why would you not like to learn? These antibodies are down. You will do a service to your patients by giving them hope that you can reduce antibodies and also reverse this disease. They said, no, we don't believe it. It is a fluke. I said, you have already called me 5 times in the last 2 months for 5 different patients, and you still feel it is a fluke? And I said, okay, let's do a research study. If you want to do it, I'm on board. They said, no, we don't want to do anything with functional medicine.
Mm-mm.
It is not a real medicine, and they will never repeat, antibodies since that time. And still, a lot of my patients, they said, well, my doctor said they know they don't come down. Why are you repeating it? I said, well, that's exactly the reason I want to see. I want to prove it. It is coming down, and you are able to reverse a disease. So I'm so glad that you were able to put your foot down, and you were an advocate for your own health. You found a different doctor who agreed with you and ordered those testing. And finally, those numbers did show that it has cut down in 50%, like in just 4 months. So just imagine, in the next 5 to 6 months, hopefully, you can bring them back to normal. Yes, it's still, they are not back to normal, but I tell people it is a process. From 1600 coming back to zero takes time. And but that's where your commitment is so commendable, that that you are still on board and still following those things. So that is really great.
Yes, thank you. And I think also, um, for me before, just thinking that I could do it on my own, I thought like, okay, 3 months and they're gonna come down, and I don't have to worry about it again. But after working these months, it's it's clear that, it's more of like a long-term commitment, but it's not necessarily about the results anymore for me. It's more about, okay, I feel so good. I feel so like energized that I want to keep going. I'm going to keep doing this because it's working, and I feel great, and it's working, and even like other markers improved as well in during this time. So that's the amazing part. And the other, like to what you were mentioning, is that before I would doubt myself because so many, like the doctors, the lab the person in the lab will tell me, no, they never come down, that the antibodies don't come down. And I will second guess myself, oh, am I doing the right thing or am I going a little bit crazy? Because everybody there, they're the doctors, they know more than me. So it's, am I a lost cause? But I think like after, this work together, it also gave me the confidence that working on this, um, it's possible. It's possible, and it happens, and it's and it can keep going down as well.
Absolutely. And this is exactly the message I want to share with people is the message of hope. Don't let anybody tell you that you cannot improve this disease, you cannot conquer this disease, you cannot lower the antibodies. These are all not the things. If you do the right things, if you work on it, you can make it happen. And we see it each and every day in our clinic that the antibodies comes down, and that's where we are so thankful that Maria, that you were able to come over here and share your story of hope, of giving it to people that yes, if you can do it, they can also do it. So, any other message you have for people out here who are listening, who have very similar stories as yours?
I think something important is that to work with, if they're going to work with you, I like 100% recommend, that you to take action and see this as like um, an investment in your health, because what you do now down the line in 20 years is going to be, we don't know what's going to happen, right? It could get worse. So if people see this as, okay, I'm going to do something for my health and invest now, you can save a lot later on. You can have like a better and greater quality of life in the years to come as well. Um, and and have that guidance, that professional guidance that like you're the expert and you know exactly what you do. It's also very important because then there's no second guessing and there's no guesswork around it. And there's so many conflicting information out there. Then do this or just quick fixes that this is going to heal your thyroid. This is going to, reverse your Hashimoto's with one thing that you do every day. It's not really real. Is the thing is it's not about the quick fixes or the shortcuts. It's about doing the work, and it pays off. It's worth it.
Wonderful, Maria. Again, thank you so much for coming over here. And again, like, just shedding some light on some other things which a lot of people are doing. High dose iodine, like different diets, different kinds of other things people are doing, and sometimes they don't work. Again, I am not saying that people should not work on their diet or people should eat junk, or not do things on their own.
Mhm.
Absolutely a big proponent of working on your lifestyle choices. But, like if you truly, truly want to reverse it, then yes, as you said, there is some work needed. So thank you again, Maria, coming over here and sharing your story of hope and resilience and kind of, determination of working on this disease and beating it. So thank you again for coming over here. Um, Listeners, this is it for today. I just wanted to share this kind of story of Maria over here with you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Maria, again joining us today.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta.
All right, this is it for today. See you later again, guys. Bye bye.